So I'm Kim Solez. I am a physician at University Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Wow.
It's a long way from here, but there are direct flights. Who knew? So it doesn't take long to get here. Yeah. So I am a transplant pathologist. So I interpret like biopsies of transplanted organs. Yeah, and that's like everything: heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, small bowel, composite tissue grafts, things like hands and faces. And you're starting to think, oh, that's so interesting. But actually, it's like the things I would talk about if I tell you the details of transplant pathology. The things you'd be interested in a presentation like this, they hardly overlap at all, So we need to talk about some other things. So in transplant pathology, I'm responsible for the classification that we use to categorize the biopsies. And it's called the Banff classification. It's named after a town in the Canadian Rockies, Banff, B-A-N-F-F. And the funny thing is, the second F is not silent. So you should really pronounce it Banff. Yeah. So, when you're seeing a singing performance, you're in the front row and the lights are on bright, you see all the saliva coming out to see when you go Banff. Yeah, so anyway, could be danger there. Yeah. And you might think, well, this is a limited subject, so there wouldn't be any famous people known to the general public who'd be interested in that, but that's not actually true. So who is this? This is the embodiment of three very important people in my life, one of which is Canadian singer, songwriter, poet extraordinaire Leonard Cohen. Yeah. And then computer scientist Rich Sutton, and the lady sitting over there is a first-year medical student, Habba. Yeah, so they are all embodied here. And so we are now going to talk about the possibility that what I've created, which is one classification for transplant pathology, expanding that like all of life, right? So the classifications of everything everywhere, so it's going to be my point of view. Whereas Rich Leonard Habba here is going to argue against that. So we're going to have a bit of a dialogue here. And so you may wonder, when I spent that 3-day weekend with Leonard, what was his reaction to my presence? See, I was really, really worried because I was bringing a robotic dog with me. And all my friends uniformly said this: bringing the robotic dog to meet Leonard was the stupidest thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And it was going to turn out very badly. So I described this to Leonard Cohen, and he said, oh, no. If you hadn't brought the dog, the visit would have been even worse. I know, it's terrible, Leonard. If I tell the people that you said even worse, they're going to think that our encounter was a complete failure. I know, but anyway, yeah. The funny thing was, though, that there was no sense of urgency from his point of view. The only reason we left after 3 days is we had a plane ticket in our pocket, and we sort of felt we probably should go back now. We had the feeling that we could have stayed with him forever. Really cool, right? But he had a discovery about me that he was confident was something important about me that I did not know, was how surreal I am and how often I am surreal. He felt I was serially surreal, like surreal over and over and over again. And I had never realized this. You might say, okay, so Leonard Cohen is like Canada's best known poet, and what does he know about being surreal? Well, he knows a lot about being surreal. Just consider the following thing. The person who influenced him the most is the Spanish poet Federico Lorca. And Federico Lorca had a same-sex relationship with Salvador Dali. So, I mean, they like knew each other so well that Salvador Dali's wife started making rules for when Salvador Dali could come to the house. She had a schedule, and certain hours, certain days he could be there, and the rest of the time he was not welcome anymore. And so I would conclude that Leonard Cohen knows a lot about being surreal because he was indirectly, closely and intellectually connected to the premier person who started surrealism. Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I am going to question, though, why you had the green thing in your hand the whole time. What does the green thing have to say? Does he have an opinion?
Yes.
I need to know his opinion if he has one. What is it?
His opinion is that as surreal and wonderfully human and stuff as having all these classifications would be, it's just completely impractical. And actually, computing scientist Rich Sutton also feels the same way. His bitter lesson, which is like the smartest idea he ever came up with, is that every major advance that computers have had something to do with has been due to computation alone. Nothing to do with any information about how humans do the same thing.
Well, I was just going to say, I have no fucking idea what the fuck any of that would amount to if I tried to make a concerted effort to be like, yes, this is what it is. And this is me, and this is who I am, and this is what it is, and you deal with it.
Yeah.
I couldn't defend it because I don't know. I just don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, like the green thing. I love the green thing.
This is a chameleon, right?
Sure.
That's what it says
I don't
on
know.
the tag.
I mean, I
So
can't argue with
that's
it.
an animal that can simulate colors,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. And we're using it as the embodiment of these three people whose opinions matter to me and who hold the opposite opinion that it wouldn't make sense to create classifications for everything everywhere. So there wouldn't be, like, rather than one Banff classification like there is now, or maybe the second one we're going to do for pig to human transplants, and then the third one we would do for stem cell generated transplants, and the fourth one for bio-artificial kidneys.
And like I don't hate it because my dad has a fucking pig valve. Did you like pig to human transplants? No, I don't define. So
pig to human transplants, those are
it's a thing.
The new thing that is going to most quickly solve the organ shortage.
It's better than people being like, oh, I'm going to get my cousin to donate my kidney, kind of thing.
It's better because it can reach everyone. Right now, we're only reaching 5% of the people who need organs, and this could reach them all. Yeah.
Yes.
But the idea that classification should then go way beyond that, and this human construct of classifying everything is like some grand plan for the future.
Isn't it? Is that it's a human construct, and that humans suck at being
general.
At making it happen. Like
whereas computers can have general solutions. And
like I think that there's a basic lack of reverence in whatever fucking division it is. There's a lack of reverence for what should be really, really like reserved for being like, oh my God, I don't love what you're doing with it, but I respect that you were able to get to the point where you could have that conclusion.
Yeah.
Right? Like
So
that.
I think, I can feel my 10 minutes closing out, but anyway, so no, I think that's really what we're trying to say here. There are arguments on both sides, but that probably using computation alone, a lot of medical problems will be solvable by computers without the computers needing to know how humans used to do it before. And that's the surprising thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Yeah.